Also introduce our viewers to those live visuals that we are getting from Sri Harikota. Any moment from now at around 10:18 a.m. IST, we will be seeing the launch of ANVESHA. We will be seeing that historic launch that is very important and strategic for India as well as the world. In fact, let me also go across to Group Captain Jha, who has been with us since the beginning of the show. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on the broadcast. If I can come across to you, there are obviously a lot of other important facets to this launch, but for the time being, we want to focus on how important and how strategic ANVESHA is for the defense forces, because it's an Earth observation satellite as well. We will have other civilian usages as well. Group Captain Jha, if you can hear us, if you can unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. We are very keenly looking at this particular launch because it is ANVESHA, as you have mentioned. You have already given a lot of details. It is essentially for armed forces, various activity that is happening on the Earth. By and large, when we say EOS, Earth Observation Satellite, it means that the satellite is having a look, an eye onto the Earth, happening onto the surface of the Earth. Or there are many other satellites which also look underneath the surface onto the terrain, about agriculture, science and technology. A lot of things are happening by many of the satellites, but we are especially looking at ANVESHA because this will give us the...
Here's the pillar of fire.
So just a minute, we will...
PSLV C-62 clearing the umbilical tower, a majestic liftoff.
PSLV C-62 प्रमोचन यान का सफलतापूर्ण उत्थापन प्रथम प्रमोचन मंच से और बढ़ चला है अपने उद्देश्य कक्षा की ओर इस मिशन को पूरा करने के लिए EOS N1 उपग्रह उद्देश्य कक्षा की ओर।
Shah ground station is tracking presently for 70 seconds after a lift of the S139 motor, and the two strap-ons will together develop thrust.
प्रथम चरण का निष्पादन पूरी तरह सामान्य, यान अपेक्षित पथ का अनुकरण करता हुआ जा रहा है।
Shaft position main auto. Both strap-ons separated.
There's a confirmation from the Range Operations Director that the strap-on motors have been separated from the ongoing launch vehicle. However, the core S139 motor continues to burn and develop thrust.
दोनों स्ट्रैप-ऑन बूस्टर को यान से पृथक कर दिया गया है तथा कोर बूस्टर अभी भी प्रज्वलित है।
Shah station continues to track and Trivandrum station beginning to acquire trajectory data.
इस दौरान कोर बूस्टर 4800 किलो न्यूटन का प्रणोद उत्पन्न करता है और यान का दिशा निर्धारण करते हुए उद्दिष्ट कक्षा की ओर जा रहा है।
Separated, second stage ignited. Plus 2 minutes.
प्रथम चरण को यान से पृथक कर दिया गया है तथा द्वितीय चरण प्रज्वलित हो चुका है।
The first stage has completed its operation. The relative velocity at this time is 1.7 kilometers per second. Current altitude is 93 kilometers.
द्वितीय चरण विकास इंजन का प्रयोग करते हुए तथा ईंधन के रूप में US-25 तथा N2O4 का इस्तेमाल करता है और वर्तमान में यह 800 किलो न्यूटन का प्रणोद उत्पन्न कर रहा है।
151 second burn time for the PS2 stage for the present mission.
Payload fairing separated.
अब यान की ऊंचाई 123 किलोमीटर हो चुकी है
plus
अब यह
3
घने
minutes.
वातावरण से बाहर जा चुका है, इसलिए यान से ऊष्मा कवच को पृथक कर दिया गया है। द्वितीय चरण अभी भी प्रज्वलित है।
Two major flight events upon clearing the dense
Second
atmosphere.
stage performance normal.
The payload fairing has been jettisoned and closed loop guidance is initiated, and PS2 continues to develop thrust.
यहाँ द्वितीय चरण इंजन जिम्बल की मदद से अपना दिशा निर्धारण करता है और उद्दिष्ट पथ की ओर यान को दिशा देता हुआ अपेक्षित पथ का अनुकरण कर रहा है। द्वितीय चरण का निष्पादन पूरी तरह सामान्य। अब यान की ऊंचाई 265 किलोमीटर तथा सापेक्ष गति 3
Second
किलोमीटर
stage
प्रति सेकंड हो
performance
चुकी है।
normal.
The PS2 was powered by the Vikas engine, which develops 800 kilonewtons thrust. The trajectory of the vehicle closely follows the expected trajectory.
Second stage separated. Third stage ignited.
यहाँ इसकी पुष्टि हो चुकी है रेंज ऑपरेशन डायरेक्टर द्वारा। द्वितीय चरण को सफलतापूर्वक यान से पृथक कर
Third
दिया गया
stage
है
performance normal.
तथा तृतीय चरण का प्रज्वलन शुरू हो चुका है और वह सामान्य निष्पादन कर रहा है।
We are 4 minutes 45 seconds past the liftoff. The third stage of PSLV, the PS3, the solid propellant stage, has commenced its operation. Rocket is at 250 kilometers
Plus 5
altitude.
तृतीय चरण का कार्यकाल लगभग 150 सेकंड का होगा। यह ठोस नोदक पर आधारित चरण है।
Third stage performance normal.
For the present mission, PS3 stage will burn for 125 seconds.
यह मिशन पोलर ऑर्बिट के लिए है। इसमें सभी उपग्रह सूर्य समकालिक कक्षा में भेजे जा रहे हैं,
Plus 6 minutes.
जो कि भू प्रेक्षण के लिए सर्वथा अनुकूल होता है। दक्षिणी दिशा की ओर यह प्रमोशन होने की वजह से प्रथम कक्षा में महत्वपूर्ण कार्रवाई के लिए मॉनिटरिंग के लिए शार, त्रिवेंद्रम,
Third stage performance
मॉरिशस
normal.
और अंटार्कटिका स्थित ग्राउंड स्टेशन हम तक यान के आंकड़े उपलब्ध करा रहे हैं।
Third stage burnout. Vehicle in combined coast phase.
तृतीय चरण का कार्यकाल समाप्त हो चुका है तथा यान कोस्ट फेज की ओर अग्रसर है। अब कोस्ट फेज है जहां कोई भी प्रज्वलन नहीं हो रहा है। यान पूर्व प्राप्त संवेग से आगे बढ़ रहा है।
The launch of PSLV C-62 had taken place today at 10:18 hours 30 seconds. The first, second stage have completed their operation.
उपग्रह की कक्षा में अंतक्षेपण के पश्चात प्राथमिक कक्षा निर्धारण इसरो के महत्वपूर्ण केंद्र इसरो टेलीमेट्रिक एंड ट्रैकिंग एंड कमांड सेंटर इस ट्रैक द्वारा लगभग वास्तविक समय में किया जाता है.
All right, so that was the moment that every Indian had been waiting for at the start of the year. In fact, let me go across back to Group Captain Vian Jha. Sir, that was a moment filled with pride. It was a proud moment for every Indian, in fact, because we saw the ANVESHA's successful launch, the first successful launch this year. And you were talking about the strategic capabilities of ANVESHA.
Yeah, before that, I must tell you that there have been a problem in the launch. The third stage didn't perform as it was expected. And thereafter, they have been successfully able to separate out the third stage. And the fourth stage right now is burning. It has been initiated. I hope fourth stage is able to take the payload into the desired orbit, because in the orbit, the satellite will remain only if it achieves the orbital velocity. And the orbital velocity is, of the order of about 7.4, 7.5 at 500 kilometer altitude. So that much of velocity has to increase. I hope the fourth stage of the vehicle is able to achieve that velocity. It is not yet fully successful. The operation is going on. Fourth stage is taking the satellite further up. It will all be seen as and when the injection of the payload happens, and at the time of injection, whether the orbital velocity is being achieved by the vehicle or not. There seemed to be a problem where when we saw on the model of the rocket third stage, it was having a problem. It entered some sort of spin, unstable track. So let us hope that everything goes on. But as we are very hopeful that the fourth stage has already started, fourth stage has been initiated, and that is taking the satellite further. I only hope that it achieves the orbit, it goes to the orbit, and then it is injected thereafter. We are keeping our fingers crossed.
Absolutely, sir. And even in this, sir, it's a very specific for the PSLV. You have the solid liquid propellants that actually help it. In fact, the third stage, I believe, was the solid one that the narrator also spoke about.
Oh yes. Look, PSLV has been in the workforce of ISRO. Seldom it has failed. Of course, last year C-61 flight that failed, and that was also unfortunately carrying the defense satellite of EOS-9. And now again it is taking N1, and we are keeping our fingers crossed that everything goes fine. We only hope that it achieves its target. But then look, PSLV is the one wherein it has been most dependent of the rockets. It has carried so many of the payloads, so many of the satellites, and without failure. Of course, last year it had happened, and only once or twice before, during the entire developmental flight also, PSLV had given a problem. So let us see how it goes. But defense services will be very keenly looking that this all goes well, because it is going to serve very large interest of the Indian Armed Forces, of the type of what you mentioned as a spy satellite, or the Earth, the eye in the sky, that will help Indian Armed Forces to keep a track of its border, keep a vigil on its border. We are keeping our fingers crossed. Let us see how it is all going on.
Absolutely. In fact, let me also rope in some other guests who have joined us, Lieutenant General A.K. Bhatt, DG ISPA, and Dr. W. Selvamurthy, former Chief Controller DRDO. Thank you so much, sirs, for joining us on the broadcast. A very good morning to both of you as well. If I can go across to Lieutenant General A.K. Bhatt first, because we were just talking about how strategically important it is, the eyes in the sky, and how it's going to boost our defense forces and its surveillance over here. Sir, if you could unmute yourself, please.
Uh, as you are aware, last year the government had taken a significant decision when 52 satellites of the satellite-based surveillance were approved by them. And 31 of these satellites are being manufactured in the private sector. Apart from that, this satellite, which is now being launched, is a special in itself because it is a hyperspectral satellite. It does not see the spectrum just in RGB, that is red, green, and blue, but sees in the whole spectrum divided into much smaller segments, giving a more granular view of the Earth. And this satellite, which will be at an orbit of 600 kilometers and weighs about 100 to 150 kgs, will enhance the capability of surveillance of the Indian Armed Forces.
Absolutely, sir. In fact, let me also rope in Dr. Selvamurthy. Thank you so much, sir, for waiting for so long. I apologize for having you kept waiting. But, so there are other important aspects as well that are being, carried as payloads on this PSLV launch. And we are talking about a refueling orbiter, which is the first of its kind, and in India, in fact, wants to demonstrate that. What more could you, in fact, expand or tell us about that feature?
Thank you. Good morning, and congratulations to ISRO for the first successful mission in the year 2026. And as proven by ISRO's capability, reliability, that this mission is also almost now getting completed successfully, and I'm sure it will meet all the mission objectives which has been sent for this the PSLV C62, because it's a very trusted workhorse which has always been proved to be very useful, as Group Captain Jha mentioned. And this launch is a very important mission in the beginning of the new year 2026, because there is a lot of ISRO activities lined up. So in this has got a very strategic application of this ANVESHA satellite developed by DRDO, Defense Research and Development Organization, for the armed forces, with the help of the private sector as well. So this is a very indigenously developed Earth observation satellite, which has got a hyperspectral imaging capability. Because, DRDO has been struggling to develop foliage penetration radar, because there are many strategically important operations happening in the jungles, forests, where there is thick foliage happening there. Are developing a high pixel resolution system to see the movements of people or the miscreants in the jungles, and maybe even the antisocial elements operating from there. In addition to the location of weapons, location of the movement of the vehicles. So it has also got, besides the border observations, which is also has other methods of observation. This has got a special application to look into the foliage and then operations in the jungle. So that is why it is hyperspectral imaging is the very important part of the capability of the ANVESHA satellite, which is being launched today. It has also got other civilian application, because you will be able to also do the urban planning, agricultural health monitoring of the crops. If there is an infection coming in the crops, how do you diagnose it early and then treat it? And when you do the urban planning, we can also look at the assets as well as the planning for development. So it has got several civilian applications as well. So it has got definitely a strategic application for the military armed forces, but it has also got spin-off for the civilian sectors. And this mission is not only putting the ANVESHA, but you are going to have the 12 other payloads as well as payloads from the European sectors. So this C62, which is going to be launching ANVESHA at an altitude of 5,005 kilometers, which is known as sun synchronous orbit. Because at this orbit, the lighting, imaging of the Earth is always very clear. That is why the altitude has been chosen very carefully, 505 kilometer above the Earth altitude. And this will be giving clear, continuous images for the Earth observation, both for strategic as well as the civilian application. So I once again congratulate the scientists of ISRO and also the DRDO for developing this very critical, strategically important satellite, which is going to be very, very useful for Army, Navy, Air Force, because it can also look at support the naval operations. It can support the Air Force. It can also support primarily the Army in a big way in terms of locating at what are the enemy positions coming up. Any new structures are coming, infrastructure being built in the borders, movement of the troops, movement of the vehicles, movement of the weapon platforms. All this can be seen from the satellite. So that is why it is very, very strategically important for us. And congratulations once again to all the people of India that this is the year has started with a very big success in terms of the C-62 PSLV launch from ISRO. And congratulations. Thank you so much.
Right. In fact, let me also go across to PK Ghosh, space scientist, who's joined us on the broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. We appreciate your time. So when we're looking at this launch, it's very revolutionary. First, we have the EOS N1 ANVESHA. It's an Earth observation satellite, but it will give a big boost to our defense capabilities as well. Secondly, it has the ISAT, which is something that India is looking forward to because it will demonstrate on-orbit refueling. Thirdly, it also has MOI-1, which is like a space cyber cafe. So a very revolutionary launch per se as well.
Absolutely. Good morning, and thank you for having me on. Of course, it was already explained as what are the benefits of ANVESHA, which has already been mentioned, so I will not dwell on that. But just to mention that, this incredible satellite, which is, some say is a spy satellite, or it is Earth observation, it can also distinguish if on ground there are camouflaged army vehicles and all. It can tell you if there is a river, it can tell you which is the best way to cross the river. So it's an incredible piece of technology. But then since it's already been explained, I will not go into that too much of detail, etc. But you're talking about the co-passengers in this. And as you mentioned, there are some very interesting 17 co-passengers or co-passenger satellites. The one which you mentioned are, of course, MOI-1. And then what is of actually a lot of interest to me is the reusable capsule. And apart from that, which we are really trying to build. And, what does this all signify? It signifies that the private entities are deeply involved in our space mission. Because, we are also, to a certain extent, the ISRO handholds all these private entities, especially Indian ones. And then, of course, they take off. So it is a sort of a joint effort. So a reusable, that kit one, which you mentioned, and apart from that, there are 5 small satellites by Brussels, all to space. Now, what does this indicate? It indicates that the foreign entities and companies and countries are interested in our launch systems because they are very reliable and they are less expensive than what is there available in the market. So those are there. Then, of course, there is Nepal, who's gotten a Munal, which is a CubeSat for vegetation mapping. So you see, Brazil, Nepal, all these countries are looking to us. Now, apart from that, it also includes satellites from Luxembourg, from UAE, Singapore, Europe, United States. And they are even looking into, some of these satellites are even looking into tracking of space debris, which is a matter of big concern, especially in the LEO, that is low orbit orbits, low Earth orbits. So the wide range of 17 satellites that are there are doing a lot of, firstly, they are ours. Some of the our own private entities, as I mentioned earlier, they have set up these satellites and we are closely involved with them. And the others, I gave you the names of the various countries that are sending these smaller satellites. So what does this all indicate? It indicates that India is a near space power and that our launches are very reliable. And not only that, they are also less expensive. And in that case, what more do you want in a commercial enterprise? Reliability and economics. Both we provide. We provide the technology, we provide the reliability, and I would say hats off to the ISRO scientists for making this a continuous affair. I do hope we have many more launches because we've got to catch up with the NASA or the the Chinese and all, with number of launches, and tell the world that, look, we have arrived. Please use our rockets for launching your satellites.
Right. In fact, let me also rope in Dr. Sharma. In fact, I will go across to Dr. Sharma first, but let me tell you that we are currently looking at the launch of the PSLV C62 mission. This is the 64th mission of the PSLV. This has been the ISRO's workhorse and it has been carrying a lot of commercial payloads as well. And in fact, the most important payload this time will be the ANVESHA. It will be launched into a polar sun synchronous orbit and a few hundred kilometers above the Earth, around 500 to 600, and along with it there are around 14 co-passenger satellites from domestic and international customers, like Mr. Ghosh was in fact informing us about. We have satellites from Brazil, from Nepal, from Luxembourg, who are in fact launching there in fact. All right, let's in fact take a look at the on-orbit refueling